So absolutely, I think the direction that Mark's taken us is a really good start for how Mitel sees the world and how we're working to make sure that we can deliver on some of these expectations, the changing expectations of the market. Because as you saw in the curves, the social advancement of these expectations is moving faster than business is typically delivering on them. So it's something we have to think about in our own organizations is, are we the disruptor or are we the disruptee? And how are we able to leverage the technologies, work with companies like Britannic who can help us stitch these pieces together to really deliver on this consumer expectation in a new business way. Now, there are a lot of key technologies that are causing this disruption. And when we look at this landscape here, it really shows us some of what I'm sure you guys are already starting to employ. Analytics, of course, from a big data perspective, is becoming one of the most important things you can look at to understand how your consumers are using your products and solutions. And it's important to figure out how to harness that information. Right? So data lakes, for instance, are a way to start to tap into how do we get the information in a place to where we can start to harvest it and understand it. But in order to understand it, because there's so much data, we need to employ things like AI. You see, AI can help us get to this understanding at a deeper level of the exceptions and trends that we may not otherwise be able to identify just as humans looking at the information. And of course, there's no great way for us to put together data visualization just on the fly without employing some sort of machine learning. So as we look at these technologies, Mitel is tapping into a whole host of these when we take a look at how we can deliver on that new expectation with new solutions that tap into the customer experience that your customers want. So how do you start to harness those? What's the best way to leverage these technologies? And we find that the reality is everyone's going to connect to some kind of cloud. At the end of the day, these technologies, especially AI, big data, this takes a lot of processing power. It takes a lot of data storage environment. It takes a lot of technologies that are not necessarily available on the prem. Take the Cray computer that was shown earlier in Mark's presentation, right? We kind of have to bring things back centralized to start to get good intelligence and good capability around them. I want to talk about 3 companies that we all have experience with that I think are doing a good job at embracing this digital transformation and really changing the way that they think about how they deliver new experiences to us. The first is a Mitel customer, Netflix. Netflix has this concept of the flywheel. Now, we all know Netflix as being the company that has truly digitized media consumption for us. We can go binge watch our new favorite show on Netflix, or even our old pastime shows. And what Netflix did was when they started first offering us media, they watched our viewing patterns and behaviors. And they started to categorize that information about us as consumers. Now, prior to that, the media companies used, I'm forgetting the name of the company that used to do scoring on what we used to watch. But basically it was, you would have a Nielsen ratings family that would categorize what they would watch and how much time they'd spend watching it, and they'd send those results in on paper surveys, right? Well, Netflix made this electronic. They brought the information in to where they watched our viewing patterns, and then they cut out the middleman. They started direct sourcing content that they knew that we would enjoy. And all of a sudden now, they're throwing off and creating more momentum around what our viewing behaviors are, what kind of content we like, and now we're going straight to Netflix for that information. And so the middleman, the studios, have been really cut out of the equation there. Now, Apple has also done a really good job of changing and delivering on a whole new experience. And that's from the very beginning of when we get a new Apple product, the unboxing experience is really unlike most other products in the industry. They really set the standard for it. And then from the onboarding process to all the way around mass customization of that solution. If we looked at all the mobile phones in this room today, not any two would be alike. The reality is that because we can do this mass personalization, that's become a new expectation when we do business with organizations. We expect that they're going to know more about us because of the data they have on us, about the accounts that we have with them, about the products that we've used and the services we've employed. And so we have an expectation of this mass personalization in interaction with companies now. Let's talk a little bit about, and I hope not to be too controversial today, but I want to talk about Tesla. Mark mentioned Elon Musk a little bit. What's interesting is we know Tesla for making electric vehicles. And they make good electric vehicles. And I think the rest of the industry is starting to catch up to that as well. As a matter of fact, Mercedes-Benz has got some great EVs out and on the way. But what Tesla's done isn't so much the electric vehicle, it's how they've changed the buying and ownership experience. They've taken a product that used to be static. When you and I would go to the dealership and drive a vehicle off the lot, it was really frozen in time. Upgrades to the technology in it were aftermarket. They weren't really delivered by the manufacturer. But what Tesla's done is they've delivered the ability to take software and update the vehicles over the air. They can do remote diagnostics. They can deliver things like autopilot. They can give, one of my favorite terms for a feature, ludicrous speed to the vehicle, and even now summon, if you've seen information about that. Summon's the ability to just have your car park itself, and then when you're ready to go, it pulls up to the front of the restaurant and picks you up. So what's interesting is, Tesla does these remote diagnostics, they can send remote technicians, and it's completely changed the experience of what once was static and now made it dynamic. And I think that's the true innovation that they brought to market, and they're well ahead of the competition on that front. Something that's common across all three of these is the way that they've taken sensors and information about the way that their customers use their products. They've then applied analytics to those, and they've become predictive about what customers will expect or want. Steve Jobs said, get closer to your customer than ever, and you'll be able to tell them what they want before they know it themselves. And interesting quote from Mark about the horses, right? Customers don't always know what they want, but you can certainly detect how customers use what you give to them. And in doing so, you can understand what features and functions become most important and most valuable to them from a usage perspective. Now, I mentioned big data. It's hard for us to consume all that information and be really intelligent about it. So how do we get smarter? Well, we allow machine learning and AI to understand the data and provide us with key components of how can we be more effective? How can it augment our capability to bubble up the things that we really need to apply our resources to get smarter? Now, customer experience is one of the most important factors. As a matter of fact, Walker identified that by 2020, customer experience is going to be more important than product or price. It becomes the key differentiator. And think about it, from companies that you do business with, where you have a great customer experience, you'll pay more for that experience. Apple's a great, use case for that. There are cheaper smartphones in the industry that do almost equivalent to what Apple can provide, but their experience for onboarding, continuity with your applications and your solutions across the Apple Halo ecosystem is really easy to use. So now the question becomes, how do we start to apply what these companies are doing in changing this expectation that is a reality? These aren't future promises of what we will want. These are these are today's actual deliverables of what they're giving us. So how do you take your company from where you are with the technology you have today to where you want to go in the future? That's what we're working on at Mitel. How do we help you take the investments that you've made with us and make sure that you can enhance those solutions and deliver on these new expectations, these new promises? So our strategy is to make everything cloud capable. It doesn't mean you have to take what you have today, throw it out, and redeploy in a cloud environment. It also doesn't mean that you have to do a lift and shift. And we know that businesses are going to move at different paces. The reality is that all of you are on a unique journey of your own. And small businesses, we've seen, can move quicker because typically they have less integrated systems to worry about. They can move to the cloud quickly. The mid-market businesses have typically done hybrid architectures in this case, where they're starting to leverage some cloud applications, cloud delivery, and really get some economies of scale. But at the same time, there are some solutions that they want to keep close to home. And they still have resources inside the business that can maintain and support those. And then for large enterprise, we see a lot of private cloud deployment. But we see more and more of SaaS-delivered applications like Salesforce.com that need to be connected back to those prem solutions. So how do we help get you where you need to be, where your customers expect you to go? And that's through what we call CloudLink. CloudLink is our microservices born in the cloud, native, scalable cloud architecture that is global in nature, that allows us to leverage the best pieces and the rapid innovation that's available in native cloud and connect it securely through CloudLink gateways to the technology you already have today. So we don't have to take and deliver the software on-prem with local Cray computing capability on site, right? We can connect you into the power that lives in the cloud environment. And we believe that anything that should be will be connected. It has to be intelligent. It needs to be real-time, because that's how we as humans communicate. It needs to be customizable, because each of your environments are unique to you. And it has to be multi-platform, because no one vendor can do it all themselves anymore. So Mitel's helping to drive this unified communications, cloud, and IoT intersection that gives us a whole new tool set to really drive this digital transformation. And if you think about the way that we've delivered communications in the past as enterprise communications vendors, we've typically focused first on intra-company communication, making that really good. We perfected the PBX. We made it so that you could communicate with instant messaging and tool sets inside the company. Then we extended that through web communications technologies to bring in inter-company communication. And then now, IoT becomes the next ring that really helps to drive this innovation forward from communication perspective. IoT allows you to get to the point of origin of a conversation. Typically, it's humans that trigger conversations, but machines can trigger conversations too, and we can give those machines a voice. And we see that the organizational center for business is shifting. A lot of this has to do with expectations changing in the marketplace, but also a lot of it has to do with the technology shift that we're seeing. This move to mobile that Mark talked about has been a huge enabler for how we can now put power into the hands of employees that didn't have it before. We used to build technology specifically for knowledge workers, people that were productive with PCs and desk phones. But now, as we have super powerful computing platforms that are always connected in the pockets of most of the workers inside of our businesses, now we can start to shift the capability for innovation, workflow efficiency, and connected to customers more effectively, now moving to information workers, people that wear uniforms, and service workers, folks that are out there in the fields, HVAC, electricians, plumbers. Now it really shifts the capability of how you can deliver on a new expectation for your clients by enabling these new folks to be connected like your knowledge workers have been for years. So CloudLink connects machines to humans. And it really takes us down this path of connecting environments that customers may have already deployed, or things that you're already putting in place for IoT, but then being smart about how we trigger workflows and get lines of communication out to those field service personnel. Let me give you an example. We've worked with a number of companies on how we can take the systems and solutions they have in their environments and connect them to do intelligent things. I started with Charles de Gaulle Airport. Hub One actually takes care of their environment, and they have about 30,000 IP phones deployed from Mitel throughout all of the Airport de Paris environments. They've already put RFID sensors in place. They've put LoRa technology out into their environment. And one of the things that we noticed is that their AED cabinets that were in the airports hadn't been connected with IoT yet. So as we walked through the airport, we identified that these large, loud screeching alarms really are local notification for somebody to pick up their cell phone and call for help. But you really need to put airport operations into notification. You need to get the first responders and security in the airport to respond to that location. And if possible, get real-time communications to that location. So we took the IoT sensors they had, we connected via REST APIs directly into Mitel's communication solutions, and now we're able to do really interesting things, like do screen pop notification to the Airport Operations Center so that they know when an AED cabinet gets opened. We can then ring phones to make sure that people get a notification, text-to-speech, telling them the location and the time that this has happened. And now we can even take, if they have IP cameras in that location and two-way IP paging speakers, we can pipe live video directly to the mobile devices that those first responders have as they're en route, so they can assess the situation and then speak through the IP paging speaker right to those individuals to help them with that situation. So there's pretty incredible things you can do. We've also worked with manufacturing companies. We've worked with pest control companies, things that you wouldn't think would be high-tech, to do notification of a rat's actually in a trap. So now I don't have to send my pest control folks to go check every trap on a scheduled basis, spending more money in labor, in fuel, in maintenance. Now I simply know when a rat trap has been activated, and I can send someone to go take care of that rat trap, actually building a better mousetrap. So IoT sensors allow us to do things that make us more effective, more efficient. And IoT is a key component of how we can connect that to the human capability. So success in the future is about customer experience. It's about moving from reactive to proactive and predictive in the way that you do business with your customers and each other. And so it's the businesses that understand how they deliver what they deliver is as important as what they deliver that are really going to start to help deliver on new expectations. The evolving customer experience really is a lot about we expect to self-serve. On our mobile devices, we can source so much information. We can do automated banking. There's a lot of things that you can do where you don't have to actually interface with a human anymore. So we want to self-serve so that we can do it on our time. We can do it when it's convenient for us, while we're standing in line at the supermarket, or we're waiting to pick up our kid in the, from after school or an activity. And so in this case, we need to figure out how do we as businesses start to evolve so that we can help our customers self-serve better. And then when self-service breaks down, how do we support them more effectively? So that's why Mitel partnered with Google. We wanted to find out how could we take artificial intelligence from the leader in natural language understanding. You saw the Google Duplex demo there for booking the reservation at the restaurant. If we can take that capability and stitch it into the conversation for self-service and then for human interactions, we can make that much more rich of an experience. We can be much smarter about it. And if you combine that with Mitel's heritage of doing enterprise communications and contact center solutions, all of a sudden now we have the capability to inject technology in a very simple manner with solutions that you may already have in your businesses today. So we take something that was complex, chatbot programming. From a self-service perspective, if you think about it, chatbots become a very easy way for us to access information in systems that we may not otherwise have access to. So typically, this is like an IVR tree. You have to build out what questions do you think your customers are going to ask you, and then how do you get them to the answers that you need to provide them. And it becomes very complex in the programming and the architecture that you have to deliver. And like the Tesla example, once you build it, it's static. It's not dynamic. So how do we get to a more dynamic environment where we can actually take natural language understanding, understand what a customer asks for, and do something intelligent about it without a scripted response? Well, with natural language understanding from Google, we can actually take the human speech, understand the intent or the context of it, and then look to information that already exists in your business, what we call the knowledge base. And we can connect these two so that now you don't have to pre-program a lot of things. You can take PDF documents, HTML web pages, text information, and you can have the AI look to that information, understand and catalog it, and then respond to humans with responses that look like good matches. So there's three pieces here. The first is AI analytics. We can turn the contact center into, from just being a great customer solution tool to actually becoming business analytics. You have a ton of information that's housed inside the conversations that you have with your customers. And as a matter of fact, some of the most timely information is in those contact center conversations that are happening. Chat, voice, we can actually take those, ingest them, and then run analytics on them to identify why your customer is calling, do trend analysis on it to see if there's something new that's come up. You've got a new product or service, or something's gone out of service in your business, and then you can respond to it and make sure you fix that interaction or that experience that that customer's having. In addition, then, you can understand what conversations your agent's having most frequently, and you can identify how to provide that information in a better way to your customers so they can self-serve better, or how do you fix that interface so that that application works more effectively. Now, when customers go to self-serve, we want to definitely make sure that the interaction is as intelligent as possible. So we take a virtual agent, we're able to understand the natural language, connect to the knowledge base, and if we have a high confidence rating, we'll respond directly to the customer. But we want to make sure if it needs to go to live agent assist, we take the full context of the conversation, transfer that to the live agent, and then they have full context without having to ask the customer the same questions all over again. They can respond intelligently, timely, and then we keep the AI in the conversation to coach the agent so that they can be more effective, more confident in helping that customer. So if we take a look at how this builds out, on the initial incoming, when a customer starts to have a conversation with a virtual agent chatbot, they're able to, we can detect sentiment so that we can take that customer out of the virtual agent into a live agent assist if necessary. We can get the natural language understanding of the questions they're asking, look for a response to those needs, and it doesn't just have to be a response based on information you've already built. We can connect the back-end systems to fulfillment. So if you want to make reservations, you want to book a car, something like that, you can actually do fulfillments right out of the back end with having the bot just take care of those interactions for you. But if we need to go to a live agent, we want to make sure the context gets preserved and then keep that AI in the conversation so that we can respond with intelligent things for the agent to help that customer. Now, we want to make these technologies available to all size business and all industry. Typically with machine learning and AI, it becomes difficult to train those models, and it's hard to gather enough data to make those models meaningful. In this case, we can use natural language understanding with the information you already have, and we can connect that to systems that are on-site or deployed in the cloud using our CloudLink platform environment so that we use cloud technology to leverage AI and web chat and then deliver that intelligently to the solutions you've already invested in. So let me show you how it works. All right. They were buying me some time while I was logging in here. So what you're looking at now is Mitel's Ignite screen for the agent. This is a contact center interface that brings in omni-channel communication directly into a common interface for their agents. So you've got voice interactions, email, chat, and those all can land in one place. Over here, I'm on Mitel's website, and I'm going to show you an interaction using our new capability, leveraging the Google AI Contact Center solutions to tap into the virtual agent and the agent assist functionality. So we're going to start a live chat. Now these technologies, from a time frame perspective, are going to be generally available in Q1 of 2019. We're currently in alpha stage still with Google on these. And so what you'll start to see are we're working with some beta customers to really understand that we can apply this across all industries and really come up with best ways to ingest knowledge data that you already have. Now, one of the things that we've done, we've joined Google's Responsible AI Committee, and we work through making sure that we use AI in a smart way. First of all, we want to introduce when humans are talking to a bot. So you saw the Google Duplex reservation there. The bot announced, "Hi, I'm a bot making a reservation on, part of, I think it was Anna." So in this case, we're introducing, "Hello, I'm Maya, the Mitel chatbot. How can I help you?" Now, for our customers, when they deploy this, you would pick your own bot name. Of course, you're not using Mitel's Maya. You would use whatever your business wants to call it. And so let's start with asking a few questions that would come from knowledge base articles. Things like, what are the features that are available with Google AI? So AI Analytics, Virtual Agent, and Agent Assist. This answer exists in an FAQ doc that we have on a website about this information. So we've simply taken and connected the virtual agent to point to that back-end knowledge base so that it can respond as I'm asking questions that would be pertinent. All right, I want to know, is the virtual agent available in chat? Yes, absolutely. Supported in CloudLink chat for Mitel contact centers. So we can take the contact centers that you've already deployed, we can then connect them to the CloudLink chat environment and inject the AI capabilities like I'm using here. Now, I want to ask you a question that we wouldn't have publicly available. Like, when is the release? Now, the virtual agent doesn't have this answer, but it knows that we've got a low confidence rating for what it does have in the background, so it's going to send me to a live agent. You see the interaction come in here? And now, as I mentioned, we're going to make sure that the context of that conversation that I just had with the bot is delivered right to the agent. So every question, every answer of that interaction is preserved, and now I can intelligently respond. Now, the reality is, as an agent, I don't have this information available to me off the top of my head. I know when the release is. If I knew that about all Mitel's products and services, I'd be the VP of Strategic Innovation. Oh, wait, I am. No, I'd be a PLM is what I would be. So in this case, what we want to do is actually have the bot help me get this answer. So actually, so I mentioned that the AI stays in that conversation, listens to the context, and then it actually starts to present information from knowledge bases that would be available to the agent for recommendation. Not necessarily information we have public, but things you might have in private databases. So here, I'm going to go ahead and open, it's given me this article, the Mitel and Google partnership. So I can take a look and I can see all kinds of things about, there we go. When's the release? It's going to be Q1 of 2019. So I can copy and paste that to the customer, or I can actually select to just push the information. If this was a document that I wanted to share, I can share it directly back to the customer. The other thing that you'll see here is these green checks and red X's. If I push a red X, it actually downgrades this recommendation, so the AI then learns through assisted learning that in the future this would not be a good recommendation. When I hit the green check, it then scores up that confidence rating so that in the future it knows this is definitely the response I should provide. So you'll see here that I've actually passed the document, and over on the customer side, they're getting a preview of that information. They can open it up just like I did and see the response. So now all of a sudden we've taken what was self-assist that needed to pivot into agent assist, has now become very quick and easy, and I, as an agent that didn't have this answer, was assisted right through the process. So as I mentioned, no one of us can do this journey alone. Mitel's not going to build natural language understanding any better than what Google has. And there's no way we would be able to support all the languages, over 100 different languages that they support, to understand not only the language, but understand the context of what's being said in that native language. So we want to tap into this and bring it to you in a very simple way. And we're partnering across our whole landscape. When it comes to IoT, we're working with vendors that understand IoT really well. Mitel's not going to go build a bunch of IoT sensors, but we're going to help you connect the sensors you may deploy to your communications environment to be more intelligent, more responsive, and more predictive about how you respond. And then from an AI perspective, we want to make sure that we can stitch that into your interactions that you have inside the organization, in the interactions with customers, and we want to make that whole experience much smarter in the way that you can interact and meet those expectations. So 3 steps that you can take today. Number 1, build a blueprint of what you should automate and what you should have require human intervention. To Mark's point, there is something about human interaction that still requires humans. So take the big data that you have in your environment, get analysis of it, take the exceptions of that information and get it to humans that can action it appropriately. And of course, when it comes time to make sure that you're providing excellent customer experience, human interaction is important. Number 2, determine how to best leverage your prior investments. If you already have Mitel in your environment, it's going to be easy. We can take the investments you've already made, connect these new technologies to that investment, and make sure that you can deliver on new expectations for your customers. And number 3, leverage new tools to reimagine the way that you do business today and how you can deliver a competitive solution that really starts to transform like Apple, Tesla, Netflix have done in their industries. Think about new ways of delighting your customers. And one last thing for you, a quote by Mark Benioff. I love this. He says, "Seize the opportunity in front of you. Imagine, invent, disrupt, and do good. Know that you must be passionate, unreasonable, and a little bit crazy to follow your own ideas and do things differently. But it's worth it. Life grows relative to one's investment in it." I agree with that. We have to think outside the box. We have to imagine new ways of doing business. And we have to find new ways to deliver an amazing customer experience. Thank you very much.